All right, I have my coffee and my favorite Team Oxford comma mug, and I am ready to do some serious writing. My editor loved the chapter I submitted last week. He told me not to change a thing, so I hope you are happy with all those choices we made, Rodrigo. All right, where did I leave you? Rodrigo had just made his way into the apartment building, into a place he hadn't been in ages. Thanks to his wise decision-making, he hadn't been detected. Although he had to admit it was fortuitous that his old home, apartment 5C, was currently unoccupied. He paced slowly, reading and rereading the note, even though he already had it memorized.
You left me behind, but now I'm below. Some things you never truly outgrow. Return to your home from way back when. Discover the power found in the pen. Among your other treasures, a gem can be found. You'd better hurry, for home you're bound.
Part of the clue was easy. He was home, in a place he hadn't seen in almost 40 years. 30 years? 20 years. He was home to a place he hadn't seen in almost 20 years. But where should he look? What did the rest of the clue mean? Gems and pens and treasure. He stood silently, trying to understand the meaning of the phrase, other treasures. His family didn't have much money growing up. He never had anything he would consider a treasure. But he did recall having a favorite wind-up car, a pocket watch he thought was especially shiny, a small plastic figurine that always made him smile. Suddenly it all came flooding back. 3 boards over and 2 boards down. There was a tiny knothole just small enough for one finger to pry up the loose board, and underneath...
My treasure!
He lifted up the tin box, pried off the lid, and peered inside. There were several items in the box. Most he recognized. One in particular, he did not. He set the familiar objects aside for later examination and picked up the envelope. Turning it around, he looked for markings, a name and an address, any clues. Finding none, he sat down. Rodrigo took a deep breath and opened the envelope. Dozens of note cards fell out, all of them with a familiar, looping script.
December 22nd, 1998. My dear son, I cannot believe Christmas is right around the corner. I think of you every day. As I open up the Advent calendar and think about you running down the stairs, saying you're going to read what's inside, but I know you just wanted the chocolate. With your father gone and now you, well, I'm not sure why I even put it out this year. I suppose I'd like to have it sitting on the mantle, just in case you decide to come home. I'll be waiting for you. It'll be waiting for you, just like I am now. I hope you're happy and healthy wherever you are. June 16th, 2003. I miss you today, more than usual. Perhaps because I found myself laughing today and it reminded me of your laugh. I have always loved the sound of your laugh. October 4th, 2007. It has been 10 years today. 10 years since you yelled and walked out the door and said you were never coming back. I should be proud that I raised a son that's so true to his word. I want you to know I will never, ever stop loving you, no matter how old you get, and by now I imagine you're getting pretty old. You'll always be my little boy. September 15th, 1999 to January 18th, 2005, the snow. August 1st, 2011,
Rodrigo was in shock. He hadn't spoken to his mother in
A long time.
A very long time.
They hadn't spoken since they'd had the falling out over Rodrigo.
I don't want to talk about this.
They hadn't spoken since they'd had the falling out over Rodrigo.
I said I don't want to talk about it.
Rodrigo didn't like to talk about his mother. He tried not even to think about her, but it looked like she never stopped thinking about him, loving him, even when there was nothing but a blank page in response. He felt his heart begin to soften, but just for a moment. After all, it had been a very long time.
Too long? It's been too long.
Rodrigo said decisively. He threw down the note cards and stood up, 20 years of hurt and anger fueling his actions. No, that isn't what he would do. He looked through the cards, seeing 20 years of love and forgiveness poured onto each one.
I could call her or write her. I would like to talk to her, to apologize. What if it's too late? What if she's given up on me? It's been
A long time.
No, it's not worth the risk. I mean, what if I put in the effort and tried and she's still too angry to forgive me?
He sat the note cards down, 20 years of longing and regret propelling him to stand, to leave, to forget what he had read. No, that doesn't sound like him either. What would he do? He stared at the cards, eyes wide, floored by the love and forgiveness flowing from each one. But still, he hesitated.
I could call her or write her. I would like to talk to her, though. What if it's too late? What if she's given up on me? It's been a long time. But that doesn't make a difference, does it? Doesn't matter whether she sees me and opens her arms or closes the door forever. I can stay away selfishly because I'm afraid. I can do what I should have done 20 years ago.
He paused for a moment, lost in thought, wondering how he even begins to fix the mess that he had created. But unfortunately, this wasn't the time. He straightened up the moment temporarily broken.
I don't have time for this. I've got to keep going. I can't get distracted. I have to keep searching. And the clue said something about a gem.
He stopped talking. He noticed a small envelope sitting among the rest of the treasures. He turned it over in his hands and saw 2 words printed on the outside.
Clue 2.
Rodrigo was delighted with his discovery. He quickly opened the envelope, scanned the page, reading his next clue aloud.
Take the box and find your way. Reach your destination by the end of the day. 14th and Main is the place to be. 1 more step and then you meet me. Be sure to arrive before the doors lock. Keep on moving. Time for us to talk. I can't think about this now. I have to finish what I started, and then I'll figure out a way to handle this.
Rodrigo rushed out the front door. It looked like he had an appointment to keep.
Proverbs 1:7 is our memory verse for the series, the verse that we just want to come back to over and over and over again as we work through this. It is Proverbs 1:7 says this, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. I want to pause there for a moment. The fear of the Lord. This word fear is kind of interesting, and I've shared this with you many times, but in translating, especially when you go back, and this is very true when you're going from Hebrew to English, like ancient languages, you can translate words and sometimes even translate them accurately, get the right word, but not necessarily understand the meaning, like what was its contextual meaning to them. This is a word that scholars have kind of wrestled with over the years, not because they didn't know what it was, but because they were trying to figure out what exactly did they mean by its use here in context. Let me give you like a modern example. Let's say that I was to write my wife a really sappy love note and say something like, you're in this service, so I can actually look at you here. I'm going to do this. It's going to be super awkward. Is that okay with you? I love you. All right, so let's say I was to write a really sappy love note to my wife and it said something like this. Your eyes are an ocean, and I get lost in them, right? I added all that extra stuff in this service just for you, right? Like, what if I was to write something really sappy like that, and then 5,000 years from now, somebody was to uncover this? They might easily know what the word ocean was, but not necessarily get how I was using it in context. Do you see what I mean? Because how you use ocean in context doesn't necessarily mean, that she's only got water in her eyes or that they're full of really salty, crusty stuff. That might be bad, right? What does it mean by ocean? They're really not. Your eyes are a good ocean, whatever that, right? But the reality is it's hard to translate because we're not just translating a word, we're trying to translate understanding. So in this, let's go back to the text one more time. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. This phrase, fear of the Lord, here's what we mean by fear of the Lord. This is what we believe they meant. Absolute awe and wonder. What pops into my mind when I was reading through the commentaries was being back in college, and we would go from camp to camp. I was with a team where we would speak and do worship at youth camps when I was doing my undergrad. And so, I don't even know how many different youth camps I've spoke at or led worship at over those years. But we would go from camp to camp, and they gave us a stipend to live on. Well, we wanted to use that money to do fun things. So us 5 guys would sleep often in the van while we were traveling, or like just get one room and all of us would pile into one room and save the money so we could do fun things while we traveled. One of them is we wanted to go check out and do cool things at the Grand Canyon. Never been there before. We stopped, talked to some people. Where do we need to go? They pointed us in a direction. We got there, and it was, you really couldn't see the Grand Canyon at all from where we were when we got out of the car. And you had to hike this little trail. So you're hiking this trail, you're in the woods, and we're horsing around. We're college-age kids, horsing around, having a good time. And all of a sudden, you break out of the woods, and it's right at the edge of the cliff of the Grand Canyon. So you come out of the woods, you're like, whoa. Captivated. So captivated, you don't even remember what you were goofing off talking about on the trail 2 minutes ago. Everybody's silent at how big and majestic and glorious it is. Yes, it is dangerous, but it's not afraid like I'm going to be beat or beat up. It is fear like utter amazement of how small you are and how big that is. That's what that word fear means. Complete awe. The beginning of wisdom is the awe of God. To know what is wise begins with being enamored by who God is. Wisdom starts at the foot of the majestic, glorious goodness of who God is. That's the beginning of wisdom. That's what that text means. The other thing that Kathy did is Kathy introduced us to 3 primary players. So the book of Proverbs is wisdom literature, which she did a great job talking about last week, is wisdom literature. And there are 3 actors in this play that show up over and over again in Proverbs. And of course, Brennan and the drama team are doing a great job portraying these 3 perspectives. And the 3 actors that show up over and over and over again are first, the simple. And the simple are basically the people that can't see. Here's what I mean by can't see. They are led totally by their appetites without the ability to see forward, right? So this is the person that knows they need to go on a diet, but they have an appetite for cake and they can't say no. It's like, dude, that cake's good. It's probably bad for me, but I don't have the ability to overtake the appetite that's in me at this moment. It can be as silly as I can't say no to a donut. It can be as serious as you can't say no to a strip club. It can be as common as you can't say no to going to that website online that you know you shouldn't be at. At the end of the day, the simple are the people that are led by their appetites immediately. In fact, the way the scripture talks about it is it almost marries them into they are more like animal. Whatever appetite they have, they cannot help but try to go after it. Then there's a second player that's introduced in the wisdom literature that we call Hebrews. The second player is the fool. And the fool is this, or the foolish. The foolish can see, but use their sight for selfish gain. So foolish people can be absolutely brilliant. They are great at making systems. They know how to invest money. They can build incredible machines without a doubt. But at the end of it, the foolish still have the same end goal, which is feed my pleasures. Foolish people in the Bible are the people that are awesome at building really complicated machines that at the end of the day still just feed their pleasures. Most of the world around us, some of the most powerful CEOs, leaders, political people are actually brilliant fools. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant fools. And then we have the wise, the third character that enters on the scene. And the wise is this. The wise are captivated. This is a really important point. The wise are captivated by the one who can see it all. The one who can see it all. In fact, the phrase that we're going to come back to over and over and over again is this. Wisdom, as Proverbs teaches, wisdom is a person, Jesus. You don't find wisdom, you build a relationship with him. I'm going to unpack that over the next 20 minutes. The wise love rightly. The wise love rightly. Do you trust, here's the real question, do you trust your heart more than the one who made it? Do you trust your heart, what you want, your desires, more than the one who crafted you? We're going to read out of Proverbs 3, 1 through 8. It says this, my son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments for the length of days and years of life, and peace they will add to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Notice all the relational language used to describe wisdom. Relational language used to describe wisdom. So you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. Of course, many of us have memorized this next one. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be a healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. May God add his blessing to the reading of his word. A couple of things from this text we need to look at before we apply it to our modern context. It's this. The words, my son, in verse 1 are really important. It starts with my son. There is an implied relationship with wisdom. Wisdom isn't just something you know, it's something you put your heart in. What do you put your heart in? The other big idea that we see, this is verses 3, 5, and then 7 through 8. The other big idea is that right relationship leads to life. Relationship. What relationship do you let guide you? The other thing that we see is wisdom is directly connected to what you love, verses 5 through 7. We often make many decisions with our heart. To really follow God, we must grow in relationship with him. In fact, maybe the way to say it is this. True wisdom is not found in trusting your heart, but trusting the heart of God. We're going to continue to unpack that. What are some of the boundaries that keep us from putting our trust in God? I think it really comes down to a couple of different things, but three that would apply to all of us. The different players, so the simple, this is what keeps the simple from putting their trust in God. The simple don't want to act contrary to their immediate desires. So here's the deal. Simple people, they just can't say no. They can't say no. They are led entirely by their appetites. What I want it now. I can't say no. I don't want to think about other stuff. Just give me what I want. The foolish people believe they know better. This is the mark of a foolish person. Arrogant pride leads them to believe they know better than the antiquated, old-fashioned Bible. Arrogant pride. I'm superior. I'm better. I stand above. And then here's kind of the third thing that applies to all of us. All of us have things in our life we don't want to give up. We all have things in our life that we're going, I don't want to let it go. And so the things that we don't want to let go of, they fall into a couple of different camps, depending on whether you're looking at it from a simple or the fool. If you're looking at it from the simple, you just don't want to think about it. You ignore it. It's a dark place, Jim. You don't bring it up. You don't want to talk about it. It's just something that happens. You may even view it as you're a victim of circumstances, of parents, of upbringing, of our current culture. You're a victim. I can't control it. It's just natural, just happens. The foolish person, what they do with this is they look at it and they go, you know what? I have this in my life, but I'm going to do everything that I can to justify why it's okay. And foolish people, because a lot of them are so smart, they're excellent at manipulating and cherry picking the Bible to get it to say what they want it to say. Foolish people are very dangerous, even to themselves. Their pride and arrogance keeps them from what will actually make them most whole. What is the danger of living this way? What is the danger of living this way? Well, here's what the scripture teaches. This path, those, led by my appetites, whether it's simple or foolish, this path, what danger of living this way? This path leads to a constant cycle of unmet satisfaction, always consuming, yet never really full. Your heart is hungry. You want to consume. You want to take in more, but you can't actually get enough of it to truly make you whole. So like a foolish person, you just come up with more complicated, complex ways to chase your appetite, but yet never satisfied. I come from Oklahoma. I was actually I've been all over the place. Born in South Dakota, lived in Indiana and Marion for a while. My parents taught at IW, and then we went down to Oklahoma, lived there. So I kind of consider Oklahoma home because I went to high school there and did my undergrad degree. And even moving up from Texas is where we came from right before we moved here. When I say wealthy, like when I talk about wealthy people in this area, you think of like $1 million home. You think of like a heart surgeon, maybe making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. When people from the South, and especially the Southwest, talk about wealthy, they mean oil money. And I don't think many people up here understand oil money. Like I have a friend of mine, not super close, but an acquaintance of mine that is oil rich. So I'm talking multiple Ferraris. I'm talking personally made R1 racetrack with cars that he gets to drive. I'm talking a barn for his horses made for his wife that was built. He hired the team from Disney to come out and do it. I'm talking massive, massive, massive money. We would go and swim in his pool, and it was just like a whole nother level of rich. You'd swim in the pool and you'd hit a button, and like the night version of the pool would come out of the ground, and like a movie theater thing would come up. Like all automated, just over the top. When I talk about wealthy, I'm talking oil money wealthy. I was talking with him not long ago, and he made an interesting statement to me. When we were younger, he used to always want to win. I want to win. And in his mind, he had painted a win as owning a foreign sports car, right? That's going to be the win. Whenever I actually get my Ferrari and I can drive it around town, people can look at it, that's going to be the win. When I get to that level, I will be winning. And so he did everything he could. Making deals, working really hard, saving money to get his first, and I mean first, sports car, like foreign-made, $250,000 sports car. I got a ride in it. He didn't let me drive it. I'm going to have to go visit him again, right? But I got a ride in it. He was telling me all about the journey. The first one he got, he kept it. And then he made this statement. This is really interesting. I'm going to shorten it. It was a much longer conversation. But he said, here's the funny thing with stuff. No matter how cool or amazing it is or how bad you want something, over time, it all just becomes stuff. He said, it's weird. Like, if I could go back in time and talk to the younger me, you're going to spend so much of your time and energy looking at magazines, obsessing over getting, I got to have, I got to make, I got to get. And then finally you do get it. And for like the first 6 weeks, your heart is racing when you buy it. Finally, you own this thing. And for the first 6 weeks, you drive it everywhere and you show it off. And you want everybody to see it. And then for the next 6 months, you talk about it once in a while, bring up conversations. Then after like 2 or 3 years, it just sits in the garage as stuff. And then he said, this is the crazy thing. He's like, like if you get a new pair of shoes and you're really proud of them and showing them off. I don't really do that, but some of you maybe do. You get a new pair of shoes or new clothes and it's exciting. And then after a little bit of time, it just becomes stuff. He said, as weird as this sounds, everything is just like that. It all loses its allure and excitement and just becomes stuff. See, there are people in this room right now. There are people watching online. There are people that will watch this long after the service is done on the internet. They'll pull it up, just going through the sermons. And you are giving all of your time and energy obsessing over things. And in the end, no matter how brilliant you are and how big the machines are, in the end, what you get it does not have the power to do what you think it can. And I objectively, absolutely, after almost 20 years of ministry, working with all kinds of different people, fully believe that to be true. And yet you're giving your life to it. Brilliant person, incredible mind, still foolish. Foolish. This leads us to the whys. Even C.S. Lewis himself believes the difference between heaven and hell is not gold or glory. It's one thing. It's agape. It's charitable love. Without knowing and embracing love, you can have the whole world and be totally unsatisfied. I'm going to invite Olivia up, and we're going to be done in just a few moments as I pull these ideas together. Wisdom is loving rightly. Are you going to trust the desires of your heart, whether they're immediate or foolish, or obedient and simple, or brilliant and foolish? Are you going to trust the desires of your heart over the one who crafted it, who made you, who knows what can actually make you whole? The wise love rightly. The simple do what their immediate appetite demands of them. They are chained to it. They're prisoners to their appetite. They are a prisoner to that donut. They're a prisoner to cake. They're a prisoner to porn. They're a prisoner to the strip club. They are prisoners to buying new shoes and new clothes. They cannot say no to what their appetite demands of them. They can't say no to it. They're prisoners. The foolish want to make systems and use people to feed their appetites. And the truth is they are just as much trapped. They're just way better at building machines to get to the end. The wise examine their appetite. It's like they can take it out and they can lay it before God, and they trust the one who made them. They trust that He knows them and what will truly make them whole and better than they do. Wisdom is a relationship. Even the smartest of us are really small and finite. I grew up in a brilliant home. College professor parents. I grew up around really brilliant people because of the crowd that my family ran with. You have Sunday school teachers that have PhDs. The smartest of us are still really tiny, short-lived. We don't understand every person from every context, every time in history. We don't even know all of what's on the bottom of our ocean, let alone all of what's out in the huge, glorious, majestic, massive space. We don't even know all what's on our own planet. I mean, when you look at the world and the little line around it that we live in, I mean, we're so wimpy, we can't go down very far or up very far without machines to keep us alive. We are so small, and we live such a tiny, short time on this planet. How crazy for us to go, we're smart. We get it all. We know it all. When I was in high school, Leslie and I started dating young. It was like 7th, 8th grade. We started dating, but we broke up a couple of times in high school, mostly because I was an idiot. I'm not sure I'm done with my idiot phase, but I'm getting better. And in that breakup, for whatever reason, I became totally enamored with this girl. I don't entirely know how that happens. But if you've ever been this way, it's like you think you're in love, but it's like all you can do is think about that person, they're on your mind, you want to be with them. I mean, it's like this obsession thing kicks in. And for whatever reason, as I was probably, 17 at the time, I became totally enamored with this girl. She has since grown up to be a wonderful adult, and I hope I'm growing up to be a decent adult too, but at that time, neither of us were in a good place. And I wanted her so bad. She wanted me. And so we started dating, and my church friends confronted me, who are now my accountability partners as adults. Some of them are. They confronted me and they were like, Mike, here's the deal. We're just going to tell you. Like, don't you love when your friends just point stuff out? And they're like, we don't think this is a good idea. You're not in a good place. She's not in a good place. You shouldn't be dating her. You know what went through my mind? You're dumb, you don't get it. You don't understand what it's like. I mean, I'm so blind by my appetites. You're dumb, you don't get it, you don't understand. That's what went through my mind. I'm justifying this, separating myself out from them. So I spent less and less time with my church friends, and that did things to me too. Because they were dumb, they were antiquated, they were small, they were old-fashioned, they had weird values, whatever. And all this list, a 17-year-old, this list of things that made them unqualified to speak into this relationship. Then my youth pastor finds out about it, and he confronts me, and he's like, hey, listen, this probably isn't a wise idea, just where you're at, what's going on. And again, I think, don't care, don't want you to speak into this. Then finally, my parents, she comes over to the house, and what she's wearing and what she's saying, it didn't take long after she left, and Dad was like, we need to talk. And Dad sits me down, and he says, hey, I don't think this is wise. And I wish so bad, in that moment I would have gone, aha, oh, Dad, you're right. You're really smart. Thank you for sharing that with me. But instead I responded like an arrogant 17-year-old. And I remember thinking, I'm letting him, he wasn't actually lecturing me. He was very much in love, but I was so blind by what I wanted, it felt like he was lecturing me. And so I'm just waiting. Rolling my eyes, waiting for him to finish. Let's get this over with so I can go spend time with the people I want to spend time with. And I'm thinking in my head, this is stupid, you're dumb, you don't understand. All this stuff's going through my mind. Just arrogant pride, arrogant pride, arrogant pride, arrogant pride. And I left, and I was driving around, and I think this was a Holy Spirit moment. I was driving around, and what popped in my mind was this. And I do believe it's the Holy Spirit speaking into my heart. I know my dad is very intelligent. I know my dad really loves me. Even though I don't like him at the moment, I objectively know he does love me. And I do know he's been on this planet longer than me. And I was out driving around, and it just hit me. I am going to trust my dad. I don't like it. I know what I want. But I'm going to trust him over how I feel. Because I know he really does love me. And see, this is it. This is the crux of Proverbs that paves the way for us to really get what this beautiful poetic wisdom literature is trying to say. The very center of wisdom is, who will you trust? Your tiny, small, arrogant mind, or the one who made you? That he can lead you to what will truly make you most whole and complete. Wisdom is not information. Wisdom is about building a relationship. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. I want you to grab your next steps card. We're going to do 2 more things and we'll be done. Grab your next steps card. Everybody grab it. You can't just show up at church. Listen, I am not here to entertain you. Josh is not here. Olivia here is not here. We're not here to entertain you. I want you to grow. I want you to become more and more made into the likeness of Christ. I want you to become a person who can drink deep of hope and wholeness and peace. And so you are here to grow. I know I have a coach personality, and I know that can be annoying, but listen, it's because I love you. I want you to grow. Grab the next steps card, pass it out. And I want to ask this question. I'm going to give you a minute to respond to it. Then we're going to do one more thing. I want to ask this question. Is there something in your life that you need to go, I choose to trust God with? A relationship that's broken, a sickness that you may have or a friend might have, a state in life that you are in, a concern that's on your heart, a future decision, a past hurt. I need to choose to trust God with this that happened to me, with something that I'm trying to accomplish or do, with the state that I am in. I need to choose to say, Father, I trust you with this. Whatever the Lord is putting on your heart, I want you to write it down. I'm going to give you a minute. Go. What do you need to trust God with? What do you need to trust God with? Lean not on our own understanding, but in loving relationship, trust the one who made you. What do you need to trust God with? Keep writing if you're writing. We got a lot of people still writing. That's okay. The rest of you, if you're done writing, stand to your feet. If you're still writing, keep writing. That's okay. The rest of you, stand to your feet. We're going to do something just a little bit different here as we switch and sing a song. I want to bring you to a beautiful place. A place that I feel like God takes me to every once in a while. There are times as a pastor, I mean, my goodness, this church has grown so much, and I've come from such large ministries, and we've been a part of such great things. There are times as a pastor when I'm writing an article for a newspaper or putting a sermon together, and God speaks something into my heart, and I just don't have the ability to wrap words around it. The fear of the Lord, the majesty of God. Yesterday, I was running on the treadmill in the basement, listening to music. And as I'm running on the treadmill, I'm just thinking about how big God is. And what pops into my mind is the early, cool morning sunrise breaking over the horizon. The light watching it wash and paint across the landscape. And in my mind, like that jogging out there early in the morning, breathing in the cool, fresh air. And I had this thought, as beautiful as that is, it was like God said in my spirit, that is but a tiny, small glimpse of how good and glorious I am. No eye has seen, no ear has heard what God has in store for those that love him. And then what popped into my mind was back to the Grand Canyon and being enamored, like that goosebump kind of moment where you're lost in it, and it hits me. No eye has seen, no ear has heard. This is just a tiny little itty bitty glimpse of a much bigger and better God. And I hunger in my spirit to experience his majesty and glory. And I think about marriage and even the best of relationships and those moments when everything is working and getting along and working right, even sensually on every front. And the truth is, even the best of those moments is still just a tiny, dull, small picture of how much bigger and better God is. And I'm running on the treadmill and I start weeping so hard I can barely breathe while I'm running on the treadmill. I'm locked into another world, a better place. I am not home, and something inside me wants what is so much bigger than even what the best of the world can offer. And it's like God whispers in that moment, it's just my presence. Move into me. You see, what I wish for you so bad, and I know I'm such a passionate preacher, and I know I just bring the heat, but what I want for you so bad is I just want you to taste and see how good God is. You were made for another world, a better one, a truer one. And if you're out there today and you're battling with a sickness, in fact, I feel like the Lord put it on my heart. If you're watching online or sitting out here and you've just been diagnosed with something, I don't know, I feel like the Spirit's just putting it on my heart. You've been diagnosed with something serious. I want you to hear my words clearly. This is not the end. And you will be set free from this broken part of the story, and your best days are yet to come. You are finding freedom at the foot of the cross. If you would, bow your heads and close your eyes, and we're going to pray this together. Before we worship and respond by bringing the cards up or praying at the altar, I want you to ask God this. So, right now, just between you and the Lord, eyes closed, think of beauty. The breaking of the sun over the horizon on a cool morning while you jog. A huge beach when you first show up on vacation after a long season of hard work, and you're just locked into how big the ocean is. Breathe deep, the fresh air. The mountains. Those that like to hike and be outside. You break out of the trail and you see a scenery that just locks you in. You are in awe, fear, not afraid, captivated. Holy Spirit, I ask by your grace that you would wake us up, that we could see how big and good and glorious you are, that you would show us just a little glimpse of how majestic you are, that the pain of this world would lose its power as you give us a glimpse of how much bigger you are. Wake up the almost childish longing for wholeness and completeness, to be rescued, to be saved. Wake up the wonder in our hearts and minds. Call out the deeper hungers. Jesus, meet with us. I pray that people here can do nothing more than just experience how good and glorious you are. I call, God, to you that you would give this to us as a gift. The people here just need your presence. In your own hearts and minds, pray this with me. Father, wake my heart up. Show me your wonder. Give me a taste of how good and big you are. Help me to see the bigger story that I'm a part of. Help me to know that I am loved. Help me to be an agent of that love to others. Remind me of who you say I am. In your own hearts and minds, just in this moment, just pray, Father, speak to me. Just pray that in your heart, Father, speak to me. We just want to thank you for watching the sermon online. If God is working in your heart, we would love to hear about it. You can go online, www.encountertrinity.com/nextstepscard. You can fill out information there. Let us know what God is doing in your heart. If you need help with anything, we would love to help. Counseling, we would love to do anything that we can to help you go to that next level spiritually. When you fill this out, it goes to one of our pastors. It is private, and we will take care of that information to the best of our ability. We love you, we care about you, and we want to see God do great things in your life. Have a great day.